Hey everyone, it's Nadine from Nadine Walks, and today's video is going to cover what to do about the bathroom situation on the Camino. Now, this is the topic that I think a lot of first-time pilgrims, especially female pilgrims, have in mind and are asking about when they're planning for a Camino. And so I'm going to talk a little about my experience, what I've observed, what I think some extra tips or tricks could be for this. And I am going to gear this more toward female pilgrims. As ever, anyone is welcome to watch and also kind of to chime in the comments with thoughts and suggestions. But I'm just going to kind of share what my experience with this has been. I don't think it's something that I've really talked about on this channel much, and I've gotten the question multiple times. So I thought I would share kind of what I've learned along the way, and in hopes that it will help you if this is a question that you're having as you're planning a Camino. Now, the Camino is a long walk. You're spending hours outside every day. You're drinking a lot of water, maybe a lot of coffee. You're gonna have to use the bathroom throughout the day. Now, in Spain, in my experience, there are not a lot of public restrooms and public bathrooms in the towns and villages. I could be wrong with this, and it certainly could just be also my experience on the Camino routes that I walked. In other parts of Spain, there may be public restrooms, but I really haven't found public restrooms when I've been walking on the different routes in Spain. I was thinking back to it, and in fact, I think I could think of one time that I came across a public restroom, and it was exactly where I needed it, and I was so excited. And then the most surprising thing, this might be a bathroom. It is. Oh my goodness. In Spain. Look at that. But in general, you're not going to find public restrooms in Spain. Now, on some Camino routes in France and in Portugal, I think that situation can be a little bit different. When I walked the Chemin de Puy, in many of the villages I passed through, there was a public bathroom. Sometimes you had to look around for it a little bit, but often you'd kind of be entering a village and you'd see a sign directing you where to go. In Portugal, on the coastal Portuguese route, a lot of the beaches had public restrooms that were available to use. Now in the summer, these were open. In springtime and maybe off season could be less so, but I did notice that if you're walking the coastal route, there are several opportunities where you might see a restroom. And then in other places in Portugal, there are a few spots where I saw restrooms kind of attached to a church or in a building behind a church. Again, though, in France and Portugal, it doesn't mean you're going to find restrooms all over the place, but in my experience, I saw more than I did in Spain. But for the sake of this video, let's kind of focus on the Camino Frances because a lot of people start with that Camino. So let's say you're walking the Camino Frances, and I just shared that you're not going to find many public restrooms along the way. So what do you do if you have to use the bathroom? What I think most pilgrims do is they will just stop when they pass through a village or a town, they'll stop at a bar, they'll get something to eat or drink, and they'll use the restroom. And then in another couple hours, if they have to use the bathroom again, they'll do the same thing. They'll just stop, get a drink, get a bite to eat, use the restroom. I know that there are some pilgrims, when I see this question come up in different social media groups or in the Camino forums, there are a lot of pilgrims and female pilgrims who say, I never had to use the bathroom outside at any point along my Camino. I was able to always find a bar or a place to stop in to use the facilities. And I think this is possible for a lot of pilgrims, but I don't think it's going to be possible for everyone. So before I get to then what you do if you can't find a bar or restaurant, I do want to say that it is really important if you do go into a bar needing to use the restroom, that you buy something, or at the very least, leave €1 or $2 on the counter up at the bar to kind of pay for the use of those facilities. Okay, so I would say it's almost inevitable, though, that there may be a few times on your Camino, especially if you're walking along Camino, where you've maybe had a lot to drink or you're on your third or fourth coffee of the day and you find that, you left a village, you walked for 45 minutes or an hour, and the next village isn't for another few kilometers, and you need to use the bathroom. So most likely you will then, in that case, have to use the bathroom outside. Now, this is something as a woman I didn't have any experience with before walking the Camino. You know, it could be a little different if you're used to spending a lot of time outdoors or you grew up going camping. You know, some people are just more comfortable with this, but I really wasn't when I started my Camino. And this is an area that, you know, I had not a fear around, but like a slight anxiety with. I just kind of thought like, this is a new situation for me. And I did find that in the beginning of my Camino, the first several days, maybe up to the first week, I don't think I was drinking as much water as I should have because I think I was just a little bit nervous about having to use the bathroom outside and how that all worked. But eventually I kind of realized like, oh, I'm getting a little dehydrated, better drink more water. And so I just, you know, you just do it and you figure it out. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. So what I've kind of learned and what works for me is it's pretty simple. I just find a really tucked away spot. Sometimes this is easier than other times, but if you can find a tucked away spot, try to move away from the trail. I think recommendation is like, I'm not even sure how many feet or meters, but they say about like 70 steps away. Just try to move yourself off the main path of the Camino. Try to find a tucked away spot, and I just squat down and I go. There are some devices like a pee funnel that you can use so you don't have to squat down in order to go to the bathroom. I haven't tried one of these and I've heard that it can take a little bit of practice, otherwise it can get a little messy, but I think it's a great alternative, especially if there's a worry about, you know, your ability to be able to squat down and keep your balance. So I'll try to link to a couple different options in the description of this video. So just know that that is an option. But I just squat down, and I think there are a few tips for doing this. If you can find an area that is tucked away from the wind, that would be best because the wind can kind of mess up the situation a little bit, can get a little more tricky. If you can kind of like find a bit of a slope and just make sure you're angled in the right way so that your feet are kind of like out of the way, that can also kind of help eliminate splash. Also, if you can squat low to the ground, but also kind of find like a soft area of ground underneath you, that will also kind of help eliminate or really reduce any kind of splash effect. Sometimes if there is like a small tree or like a big rock to kind of hold on to keep your balance, that can be really helpful too, especially if you're kind of on a slope. It's helpful if you kind of can hold on and like anchor yourself to something so that you don't topple back. But if this is feeling too advanced, don't worry about the slope. Just find a tucked away spot. Squat as low as you can. And again, this is something where if you're comfortable kind of practicing at home a bit, like on on one of your training hikes, go off and just see what that's like. There's a little bit of trial and error here to kind of see what you're comfortable with and what works best for you. But really in the end, it's not that hard. So a few other tips for this. Some women will choose to wear a hiking skirt, and there are hiking skirts that are really long. And I've heard that this can be so wonderful because it kind of just gives you some cover. So you don't have to worry so much about being tucked out of the way, that you can have more privacy if you've got like this skirt around you. And then some pilgrims will carry like a sarong, or like I have a Turkish towel that I bring on some of my hikes, and you can kind of use that to wrap around yourself to give you more privacy as well. And then, in terms of wiping yourself, some pilgrims choose to just kind of drip dry. I always bring toilet paper along with me. Now, this is a full roll of toilet paper. You do not need to bring this much. What I usually do is I just kind of tear off a number of squares and I make a stack of them and bring those before I leave for my Camino. Some people will take, if you've got a partial roll of toilet paper, they'll just take out this cardboard insert and then take what's left, squash it down and put it in a bag. So I take the extra toilet paper and then I kind of have what I call my toilet kit. So I just have this extra bag, and I'm not even sure. I actually think my sleeping bag, my travel sack sleeping bag came in this, but it was just kind of this extra sack. So I bring this along. I keep my toilet paper in, a little Ziploc bag. I just put my toilet paper in there. I keep it in this bag. Always bring extra Ziploc bags. That's just a good tip for the Camino in general. But what I'll usually do then with my used toilet paper is that I'll put it in a Ziploc bag to pack it out. So this is a really important part about using the bathroom outside, is you do not want to leave any trash, any litter, anything behind. So anything that you're using when you're going to the bathroom, you want to pack that out. Now, using, a Ziploc bag, totally fine. Some people will bring like their doggy poop bags with them, especially if you have a dog, just grab a bunch of those. That could be great. Something that I've started doing, and this is like an extra step, but I read about it somewhere and I kind of loved the advice, was that I take a larger Ziploc bag, like a quart-size bag, and then I take like a roll of tape. I use electrical tape, you can use duct tape, and I just line the outside of my bag, both sides, with the tape. And so what that does, it does add the tiniest bit of weight, but it's still pretty lightweight. It's kind of like a much sturdier, bigger bag, but the tape really kind of just like hides the contents so that I can use this for all day if I have to use the bathroom multiple times, even a few days if I forget to dispose of it. I can really use this for all the extra toilet paper. Fill this up, I just kind of, put it in, close the bag, fold it up, put it back in here, and then at the end of the day, just kind of dispose of it in a toilet, and that's how I get rid of it. I, certainly don't need to do something like this, but a bag like this, it kind of reduces the number of little Ziplocs I have to carry. It's a little more sturdy, so usually I could take something like this on a month-long Camino and just keep using it. So that's just something that I like to do. In my toilet kit, I also always make sure to have some hand sanitizer. Now you can put this in a separate little kit, or, I often will carry now a waist pack with me, so I'll keep hand sanitizer in there. But that's just really important too. You want to kind of rinse your hands off with something after you use the restroom. So that's what I do on the Camino, but I know that there are some pilgrims, rather than toilet paper, they might use what they call a pee rag. So this could be a bandana. There's also something called a kula cloth. I think that's the name of it, K-U-L-A, but I'll link to that in the description. I haven't used one of these, but essentially it's a cloth that you can use to clean yourself, and then you just hook it on the outside of your pack and you let it dry. And then at the end of the day, you just rinse it out and it can be used again the next day. And I've heard people really recommend this, and they say it works really well, and this would kind of eliminate the use of toilet paper. I would always make sure to carry some backup toilet paper with you just in case, but I know that some women use the kula cloth and really enjoy it. Just know that in some cases you may have to pee outside, but that really I think the more you do it, it's not going to be a big deal. A lot of other pilgrims are aware that the pilgrims they're walking around and with are at some point going to have to use the bathroom outside. So people are pretty respectful to this. There have been some situations where I'm on a place, on the trail where there's not a good spot to kind of find cover and duck away. I'll usually, at the first sign that I kind of have to use the bathroom, I will really start just scanning the landscape and looking ahead to try to keep my eye out for a good spot. There are some cases, especially if you're walking with other pilgrims or you're around some pilgrims, just ask, a friend or another pilgrim to kind of like keep watch for you and just say, hey, I really have to go to the bathroom. I'm going to run over there. I think that's especially helpful if there are a lot of pilgrims on the path. And so that other person can just kind of say, hey, there's someone using the bathroom up there. Can you just kind of like turn in the other direction or give them a minute? And I think most pilgrims are really understanding. So I think that's all I've got for the bathroom question. I am sure I've missed stuff, but if you've got any more questions or follow-up questions, put them in the comments below. I think if you've had a good or a bad experience, or if you've learned something along the way with this, please chime in, because that'll really help future pilgrims as they're planning their first Caminos. All right, everyone. Well, it's great to be with you as ever, and I'll be back soon. Buen Camino.